Delivery drivers of Reddit, what have you experienced on a delivery that you will never forget? Delivered sandwiches. Going to a factory. If you're a factory worker, please just go to the front because we don't know where the fuck you are, seriously. Go to the front because he doesn't specify where. Front's locked. So I go to the left side of the building. Receiving guys say it's someone on the other side of the building. It's cold outside and I don't have a coat. By the way. Go to the other side of the building. See some guy looking directly at me heading to his car. Go to the side door. Ring the bell. Nothing. About to go back to my car when the guy who I saw earlier comes out the car and greets me very friendly like. He pays and I give him his food. I go back to my car and head back to the shop. Guy was complaining about how long it took to get his food while I was literally 20 feet away. It's so long because I had no fucking clue where this cunt was. Underscore. I still think about going back to kick him in the nuts. He was an exec type. Nice suit and stuff. Probably still works there. Fuck. I want to kick him in the nuts. This one is kind of sad. I wasn't out delivering but I was living with a friend and she and her mom had taken their dog to the vet. I had a few hours to kill, or so I thought, so I decided to order some Chinese. 10 minutes after I order, my friend and her mom come into the house bawling. The dog is not with them. They had to put their dog down out of the blue because the dog was very sick and old and they couldn't afford surgery. She's crying on my arm and my phone is ringing because my Chinese food is outside. I didn't know what to do so I just declined it and shut off my phone. Never ordered to her address again. Not sure what was gonna happen but I was delivering to some shitty apartment complex as a pizza guy. Only 17. Was so lost so as I'm wandering around pizza and wings in hand when a group of much larger men start asking me where the money's at and hollering. Then they stand up at all out once and start yelling to come over there. They start approaching me and pick up speed. I'm just standing there thinking, hoping, these are the guys who ordered. But I had a bad feeling. They within about 15 feet of me and ask me how much money I got. So I drop the shit and book back to my car. Didn't look back. Not sure if they followed or what. My car was some distance away from me. Told the manager and he called them and said he would send another driver. The other dude working there was like 30 and definitely bigger than me. He came back and said everything was cool. He also knew the complex. I was delivering appliances in Ontario. Went to a cottage about 200-300 km north of Toronto. After delivering whatever it was we brought, we saw his nice backyard and he asked if we wanted to see it and have a beer. It was hot, we accepted. His cottage was on a small lake in the middle of the forest basically. After a few minutes of talking, 2 military-style cargo planes came out of nowhere and flew by about 10 meters off the lake and landed out of view. No idea what they were doing. I'm a little late to the party but I worked at a sandwich delivery place in college. One time I delivered to this frat house late on a Friday night and these two guys opened the door. One is just in boxers and they're both trashed. They start hitting on me and I was joking with them because when you get hit on by a lot of drunk frat guys every night it's the only way to not be annoyed. A minute or two later, another guy comes bursting down the stairs with a giant black dildo in his hands. Some jokes were made. I was a little worried as then left. A couple hours later I see their address on the board again but it wasn't my delivery and about 10 minutes I see their address pop up 2 more times. Apparently they had been ordering multiple times to get me to come back and when I get there I'm again greeted with the dildo. Except it was being thrown out the window from the 2nd story. I screwed with them a little more cause they were so drunk but working in a college town gave me some pretty good stories. I deliver pizza every once in a while. But I mainly stay inside and make the food. One day we got a delivery for a usual customer. Jesus probably in high school or in college but Jesus the only person who asks for a joke on the box. We write a joke on the box and I take the delivery. He usually has his food sent to his work. But this time he had it delivered to what I think was his friend's house. I get to the house and knock on the door. The door opens with this joke on the box, kids wrapped up almost neck to ankles and duct tape with 2 of his friends smirking behind him. All three of them are acting like nothing out of the ordinary was happening. I couldn't help but laugh. It was the funniest thing ever. Here's one. Got stung twice by the same wasp once. It was a beautiful day. Window rolled down. Elbow on the window ledge. Wham. Something hits my shoulder and I lean forward then lean back. Ouch. Stung me on the shoulder and I arch my back and lean forward again. It slides down and I sit on it and it stings me on my butt cheek. By now I am doing 50 plus on this very residential street. I pulled over to a side street. And shaking. Got out. Saw the little bastard and flicked it out the truck and stomped on it. This was a few years ago when I was an and just got done taking my last delivery for the night. Sitting in a left turn lane at a red light. Drunk kid in a pickup comes flying in from my left to make a right turn. Takes it too fast. Swerves into me. His back left hits mine and he fishtails while I watch to see if he will stop. He does not. Despite the awful sound my car was making in the momentary thought I wouldn't be covered for damage I sustained giving chase. I went after him anyway. I'm following far behind him while dialing 911. It was dark and he must have thought he lost me because he turns into a complex. By the time I turn in, I have an operator on the line. The guy has already turned around by this point and is heading in my direction towards the entrance. My main goal the entire time was just to get his license plate. So I turn in front of him to cut him off. He goes around the front. I read off the tag once he has passed and that was GG. The responding officer told me I had the tag wrong. But my insurance company found him anyway. Just some dumb college kid. At least he got out of a DUI but did get hit with the hit and run. This made me quit delivering. I delivered here in Miami to an apartment building. I knock on the door and like 5 minutes later the door opens slowly and it is a little kid like no older than 5 who answers. He doesn't say anything and hands me crumbled up and wet dollar bills and exact change. This is an extra large New York style pizza. No way this kid can carry it. I am looking around to see if anyone comes to help. I see the door to a bedroom crack open and this woman who looked to be 400 pounds laying on a mattress on the ground yells. Just put it on the ground. I do so and the kid drags the pizza to the woman, leaving the door open. I closed the door and quit that same day. I used to deliver for Jason's Deli. Being a small town girl in a huge city, I was plenty nervous. But I had my handy dandy GPS. So I felt confident enough that I could get the job done. One of my first runs was to a large, to me, university campus. What I didn't realize at the time was GPS wouldn't help me out too much when it came to building and suite numbers. Being a daytime delivery driver, this was most of my runs. Colleges, hospitals, large office buildings act. Back to the story of the unforgettable. I finally found where I needed to be and make my way inside the building. 15 minutes behind schedule and multiple bags and multiple trips from car to building. I waited a few minutes on the elevator. It opens up. Yes. Empty. Glass half full at this point lol. I start loading my large brown bags inside. As I turn around to grab the last two, the elevator closes and takes off. I spent a good 5 minutes freaking out and playing cat and mouse with my delivery. Needless to say after I got the food delivered and got back to the store, I was stressed. Thank goodness I had an awesome manager who let me move to prepping food from then on. Now I can slice fruit and bag up cookies like it's nobody's business lol. One summer when I was 19, I delivered pizzas for a pizza place in southwest Detroit. I should point out that I am female, so a lot of times I would get my younger brother to ride with me when he wasn't doing anything and split my tips with him. There are two things I will never forget. 1. Delivering to an abandoned, sketchy looking neighborhood late at night on a block of abandoned houses. I thought about just taking the pizza back to the pizza place and telling them it was an abandoned house because I felt like it was a setup. I called the phone number they gave me for the delivery as I was driving away from the house. Someone answered, so I went back. I pulled back up to the house. An old homeless man came out of the bushes on the side of the house. paid for the pizza and even gave me a small tip. 2. Also late at night. I brought my brother along this night and we were looking for a house in a neighborhood I had never been in. There are barely any streetlights on this street, so I'm driving super slow. We started seeing a ton of guys come out of the houses looking at us. One of them came up to my car with a gun and asked us who we were and who we were looking for. He told us where to deliver the pizza, then told us never to come into his neighborhood again. Luckily I got let go shortly after that incident because my car kept breaking down. I used to deliver pizzas for Domino's and this one freaked me out. And still kinda does to this day. I worked a late shift and had a delivery ring through at around 9:30 p.m. Got to the place and it was eerily dark outside this house. No lights inside or outside. I get out of my car and go knock on this guy's front and side door. No answer. Knock again. No answer. Tried calling twice. No answer. I go and wait in my car for about 5 minutes and decide to go and knock on the doors again. Still no answer. I'm walking to my car and I hear the side door slide open. This guy comes out from this huge room which had a back wall full of TV screens. With different angles of his front lawn and his back lawn. No joke. I saw myself on at least 3 of those screens. Took his pizzas and said not a word. Not a delivery driver. However, I work in a pharmacy. And we get frequent deliveries of drugs. One day, our store manager was approached by a good Samaritan with several of our totes. The company that our distributor hires to deliver to us are cheap fuckers that don't like to fix anything. The truck that was delivering to us that day had a latch that didn't like to close. The good Samaritan had been driving behind the truck when these totes fell out of it. Our address was on them. So he was kind enough to take them to us. They were unopened when we received them. And sure enough, one of them contained about $500,000, street value, of controlled meds. I'm sure that was a pretty memorable delivery for that driver. Work part-time delivering pizzas. Few months back had an order to a caravan park at about 10 p.m.ish. Get there. Drive around and cannot find the number caravan, so call the number, no answer. About to drive back when a kid from nowhere taps on the rear window. Says it's us for his uncle and to follow him. Get out of car with a feeling of something ice and sot right hair, so and see kid make a run round corner of one of the caravans. Next thing I see is 10-12 hooded figures run back round the corner at me, ran as fast as I can back to car. Slammed door closed and locked it before rushing out of there. Get back to pizza place and explain to manager what happened. He looks at address and goes semi-bad. We should not deliver there as last guy got jumped and food money taken off him, so. Do I qualify? I was delivering for Domino's one night around 12 o'clock. I came across a pastor who was super wasted. He told me he was a terrible husband and father and not to make the same mistakes as him. It would have been really sad if he wasn't super drunk and slurring all his words. Another time I went to a really sketchy house party in a ghetto part of my city. No one could find the person who ordered it. So I was stuck there in the front yard with a bunch of drunk people and people doing lines of coke. One guy said I could have a line of coke as my tip and no one wrote down an actual money tip on the receipt. So I wrote in $5. I've never done that before except for that one time, but I felt like I deserved it. Between 2005 and 2007 I used to deliver pizza for Papa John's sauce. The best experience I had while delivering was the one time I delivered pizzas to a DoubleTree hotel where Sir Mix-a-Lot was the DJ MC for a function. I got to get an autograph, talk with Mix for a while, and got $60 tip. The weirdest experience was either 1. The dude answered the door by cracking it open slightly and demanding that I slide the pizza box through the crack as he was in the middle of spusiness. So I explained that it may ruin the pizza and he said, "That fat bitch wants hot care. And if I'm starving." So I just stood there for a couple seconds acting awkward, questioning if I had actually heard it. Or 2. The old drunk trucker dude in a trailer park tried to get me to do shots with him of Jack for a few minutes. Not caring that I was driving, lol. He eventually gave up and gave me a couple beers for the road. I did not drink the Busch Light tall boys. but my boss certainly did. Delivered for Hungry Howies. I hated being on the oven, but we were short a few people, so I had no choice but to man the oven. Well, we had an extra large coming out, and as I tried to get it out by using our paddle, the cheese basically split in half, so it looked wrong. I tell my manager. He throws on some mozzarella cheese to try and cover up my mistake, but it didn't work. Half gold, half white. Anyways, I make my way to the dude's house, which was undergoing repairs in a rich neighborhood. Before I even hand the guy his pizza, I explain to him how I messed up his order and show it to him beforehand. Needless to say, he was super understanding, and because I was honest about my mistake, he took the pizza and handed me a $50 tip. This is why if I deliver, I'm honest. Delivered pizzas for a small pizza chain where I am from right out of high school. Went to a middle class, respectable neighborhood I had delivered to tons of time. Ring the doorbell and this early 30s woman comes to the door, sort of a skimpy nightgown. She pays, tips well, and then tells me when I'm off work to come back, they were having a party. So sure enough, I get off at around 1030 and head back over, only to find a full-on swinger shindig going down. I come in and try and mingle a little, but really kinda got creeped out. Me being 19, it was lots of older people and just didn't sort get my juices flowing. But I talked to the laddie sus whose house it was, and she wants to exchange numbers to keep in touch. So what the hell, she wasn't so bad looking. A week goes by and she been texting with me all week, kinda being flirty, saying she wanted to hook up this and that. So I go back over there on a weeknight like 2 weeks later. She answers the door, takes me into the living room to sit and chat. Lo and behold, her husband is sitting on the couch watching ESPN. So I was startled. Come to find out, it's us him I've been communicating with all week. SMH blew my mind. Then he gets right to the chase, how he wants me to bang his wife. He would prefer to watch, but if I was comfortable he would let me rail her and stay in the other room for the first time. While I contemplated it, my nerves got the best of me and I got out of it and never talked to them again. TL. DR. 19 delivered pizza to swingers. They tried to bang. I opted out. I was a delivery boy for about 6 years. Lots of memorable stuff. I delivered to 2 NFL players. Got hit on a few times and even was given a Gerald Sauce phone number. I made deliveries literally 400 feet away from our front door. Delivery food in blizzards was always an adventure. The huge catering orders to schools or large events was the best, guaranteed huge tip. One that always freaked me out was to a guy who had 2 Rottweilers and would yell at me from inside his house to come inside his house to place the food on his counter. It wasn't so too weird of a request, especially since he was elderly and I've been there a few times. It was weird though when he would wear only stained tighty whities. Once he even asked me to grab his newspaper from his mailbox at the end of his long driveway. I said sure, why not? The shop wasn't so too busy and I figured I would get a better tip. Nope. He gave me $1. Too bad UPS drivers are all at work mostly. However, I worked early AM so I'm off. But during peak season I was working full time to help with the extra work. I parked in straight lines next to a handicap ramp. The only spot left, and I had to do my large pickup. Well, I had an elderly man in a wheelchair cuss me out non-stop because he had to go around the truck to get to the ramp. Just hurling insults at me like he was full of piss and vinegar. I'm usually patient in public, but I eventually got sick of it and said some mean things as well. The worst being, yeah, keep walking, as he rolled away. I was actually a little mortified once I said it, because I really didn't mean to. But then I shrugged my shoulders and doubled down. We were both assholes and I'm sorry, old man. But you needed to stfu. This may be the post where someone finally links my real name to my username. I hope not, lol. But I got nothing to hide. I deliver wine and beer in SF. There is one old woman that orders a case of wine every week. The first time I went to her apartment I could smell something foul as soon as I walked into her building. As I walked up the stairs to her apartment the odor became more intense. When I knocked on her door she opened it and the stink just punched me in the face. Her apartment was the source of the smell throughout the entire building. She asked if I could take her wine to her kitchen table. When I got inside I saw she was wearing only a tank top and a diaper. This distracted me for a moment. As I was walking down the hallway to her kitchen she said, "Watch out." I was about to step in a big ol' mud monkey right in the center of the hallway. Who just shits in their hallway and leaves it? I stepped over it, made my way to her kitchen and set the wine on her table and made my way out of there. On the way out I saw one other shit pile near her bed. And many other stains on the hardwood floor where I am guessing shit had been. There was at least 10 takeout containers filled with various amounts of food scattered around her place in various stages of rot. She is one of my least favorite deliveries to take. When I was about 6 months pregnant with my first son, I delivered for Papa John's in an area that was mostly not so great. Now, that area has the highest violent crime rate on average or something or other for our state. So that should tell you how bad it was about 10 years ago before it got downright awful. Well, one neighborhood in particular was the worst of the worst. And usually another driver would take it since I was pregnant. But that Friday night we were short and super busy. So I did it without hesitation. Go to eat after all. Right? So, I get there. Get out of my truck with the pizza. And get a really bad feeling. Quickly look around. And see a group of guys watching me. I put on my war face more or less. And as a second thought, stuck my big belly out a bit so it'd be way more obvious in the dark. One of them approached me and was like, "Oh, you pregnant?" I just shrugged and said, "Yeah. That definitely ain't a basketball, dude." He chuckled at that. Walked back to his friends. And I heard him say, "No. Y'all. Come on. She's pregnant." Double quote. They all walked away and the dude that I'd spoken to gave me a nod and smile. Told me to take care. Found out later that one driver had been brutally beaten and that lot less than a couple months before I'd been hired. And if I hadn't been pregnant, I might have suffered the same or worse. Glad that didn't happen. I pulled up to the house and there was a large German Shepherd in the yard, which was fenced in, going nuts. Barking and snapping at me. It takes me about 5 to 10 minutes of grappling with this dog to make it to the door. And it runs around the side of the house. So the folks open the door, pay for the food, and suddenly the dog bursts around the corner of the yard. Slams past me and bolts into the house. He's sprinting in circles, freaking out and knocking stuff over, including a nice looking lamp that broke. The people there start losing their fucking minds trying to stop the dog from turning the whole house into rubble. The one dude asks me, "Why the fuck would you bring your dog with you on a delivery?" Double quote. Which was an absolutely bonkers question that let me know this was not their dog. I helped them get it out of the house and they tipped me $0. Had a delivery for a hotel at 2 AM on Saturday. I went to the front desk and they asked me to come to their room. I went and knocked and a middle-aged bald man answered with only his head poking out. I couldn't see the rest of his body. He opened the door and asked me to come inside and put the pizza on the table. Which I did be. See, I'm an idiot. When I walk inside I see another middle-aged fat man sitting on the bed and the guy who opened the door closed it behind me. Then I turned around and saw the door guy was only in a thong. Nothing happened and I left without saying a word. But it was definitely strange. My soul was delivering boxes of magazines to a small shop. It was really early, like 4 AM. The shop not yet open, but he'd leave them round the back by the door. Rolls up. Hops out of the van. Grabs box and takes it to the spot. Walks back to the van and there was now a man sitting in the driver's seat. It was dark and no one else around, so he just yells to him to get out of the van but didn't approach. Next thing he knows, the guy is out and running at him with something large and shiny in his hands. So freaks out and runs. The guy chases him. So doubled back around. Jumped in the van and took off right as the guy caught up and slammed the object into the windshield. It shattered but stayed in place so he couldn't see shit, but just drove out of there anyway. Eventually pulled over when safe to find an axe was lodged in the window. A fucking full-sized axe. He was shaking too much to drive after that, so flagged someone down to call the cops. They never found the guy. I deliver pizza. I walked up to a trailer park house and knocked. Dude answers the door wearing a swastika armband and has sauced balls. I tell him the total and he invites me inside while he gets the money. Theosos 10 more dudes all bald, all wearing armbands. Sitting in a circle in metal chairs. Guy gives me the money. I go to leave. He grabs my arm and gets in my face and asks, do you like NRS? Sidon sot want to be murdered, so I respond, nope, not at all, hate those fuckers, and leave as quick as possible. The scary part is every other delivery driver but me that night was black and they might have never been seen again if I didn't take the delivery. In near hurricane conditions I was delivering subs for Jimmy John's. Took me a little longer than usual to get to a house. I am completely drenched. Standing in the rain because the front door didn't have a stoop. The guy opens the door and says took you long, and else grabbed his sandwich and didn't tip me. I made a delivery and some form of small terrier bolted through the door and bit me hard enough to leave a mark through my winter gear. I let the owner know and he apologized because it wasn't his dog and he didn't know to anticipate that. It was his dad's dog and his dad's house, and his dad was inside the house dying. The family had been sitting there trying to ease his passing for a day or so and needed that pizza to help sustain them. He wasn't overly emotional, but clearly wanted to be able to talk to someone about it. I'm the sort of person that wants to let people get all that out. Unfortunately I was on the clock and really needed to get as many deliveries in as possible. I still feel like I should have stayed a little longer.